It was a muggy Tuesday morning in August when Nathaniel Brooks, newly appointed chief of police, stepped out of a nondescript sedan in the heart of Ashford, a modest city tucked into the foothills of western North Carolina. The air was thick with humidity, cicadas buzzing in the trees nearby. The old brick police precinct loomed before him, its age visible in the cracks along the foundation and faded blue trim. He stood for a moment, taking it in, the weight of responsibility sitting heavily on his shoulders. Nathaniel had served over 20 years in law enforcement, earning his way up through hard cases, internal investigations, and community-focused reform. He was meticulous, quiet, and persistent, traits that earned him respect in some places and resentment in others. But this job was different. Ashford's precinct had a reputation. Reports of misconduct floated around like smoke, never confirmed, never taken seriously by the old guard, but always lingering in the air. Nathaniel was brought in to clean house, to turn things around. And he intended to start that morning, not with a press conference or a parade, but with his own eyes and ears. He dressed the part, a faded plaid shirt, worn-in jeans, and running shoes whose soles had seen better days. A navy baseball cap shadowed his face just enough to draw no particular attention. He wanted to see the department raw and unfiltered. The parking lot bustled with movement, officers chatting beside cruisers, sipping coffee, and gesturing at traffic citations. A couple glanced his way but offered nothing more than a passing look. Just another guy walking in. Nathaniel pushed through the side entrance. The building smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed above and flickered slightly. No one noticed him at first as he made his way down the hallway, passing a few officers sorting through reports, others lounging near desks with banter and half-finished bagels. His gaze wandered from face to face, watching posture, listening to tone. A sharp voice pulled him out of his thoughts. "Hey, you lost." A white officer in his 30s approached, cocky swagger in every step. His nameplate read, Officer McConnell. He sized Nathaniel up with a smirk that said he'd already made up his mind. "This ain't a soup kitchen." Nathaniel said nothing. He was tempted to shut the encounter down, but he let it play out. "You deaf?" McConnell stepped in closer. "I said get moving. We don't need drifters hanging around here." Behind him, a few officers chuckled, sipping from paper cups. McConnell's grin grew wider, and then, in one sudden move, he leaned in and spat directly into Nathaniel's face. Laughter echoed off the precinct walls. One officer clapped and hollered, "Damn, teaching him early today." Nathaniel's jaw tightened, but he didn't raise his voice or clench his fists. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and wiped the spit from his cheek with methodical calm. "Is this how you treat every visitor?" he asked quietly. "Only the ones who don't belong," McConnell said, smug as ever. Nathaniel didn't answer. He turned and walked down the hall without another word, the laughter trailing him like a shadow. Moments later, an announcement over the intercom summoned all officers to the main briefing room for an urgent administrative address. The laughter died down. Inside the briefing room, officers trickled in with their coffee and small talk. Some were still whispering about the altercation, unaware of the full weight of what was about to come. McConnell leaned against the wall near the back, chuckling with another officer. At the front stood Captain Jeremy Denton, an older man with graying hair and a tired but commanding presence. He clapped his hands together to settle the room. "Morning, everyone. I won't waste time. We've got someone new to meet today. As most of you know, Chief Camden retired last month. We've been waiting for a replacement. I'd like you to give your attention to the man stepping into that role now. He brings a long history of law enforcement and reform experience to this precinct." Nathaniel stepped forward from the side door, folder in hand, cap removed, face fully visible now. Silence. Chairs creaked. A few officers sat up straighter. McConnell's grin faltered, the blood draining from his face as he realized the man he had spat on just minutes ago was now standing behind the podium. "Good morning," Nathaniel said, voice steady. "My name is Nathaniel Brooks. As of today, I am your new chief of police." The silence that followed was deafening. McConnell swallowed hard, his face pale, his arms now crossed not in confidence but in defense. Nathaniel opened the folder slowly and placed it on the lectern. "When I came in this morning, I wore these clothes and walked in without announcement because I wanted to see this department as it really is, not as it pretends to be when the cameras are on." He paused, letting the tension grow. What I saw was unacceptable. A few officers shifted in their seats, unsure where to look. Nathaniel's gaze scanned the room, his presence electric, measured, and unmoving. I watched a group of officers stand by as one of their own spat in the face of a man he didn't recognize. That's not a training issue. That's a character issue. That's a culture issue. He turned his eyes to McConnell, who looked away. Officer McConnell, Nathaniel said, his voice cutting through the air like steel, you disgraced this badge. You disgraced your uniform. But more importantly, you revealed exactly why I'm here. McConnell stood up straight, ready to object. Chief, Save it, Nathaniel said sharply. You'll have your chance to speak during the internal investigation. Effective immediately, you were suspended without pay pending a full review of your conduct and past disciplinary actions. Gasps fluttered through the room. McConnell sat down slowly, the weight of his collapse visible in his slumped shoulders. Nathaniel faced the room again. I know some of you have been waiting for this place to change, and I know others of you are afraid of what that change might mean. But let me be clear, respect is not a request. It is the bare minimum. If you cannot offer that to your fellow citizens or each other, then you have no place wearing this uniform. He let those words settle. No one moved. This is not about vengeance. It's about accountability. If you're willing to be better, to rebuild the trust this community has lost in us, then I will stand with you every step of the way. But if you're just here to play power games and collect a paycheck, you'll find yourself out of a job very soon. After the briefing, the room cleared quietly. Conversations were hushed. McConnell left without a word, his eyes fixed on the floor. Officers looked at Nathaniel with a mix of awe, fear, and curiosity. Back in his office, Nathaniel leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed. Captain Denton's name flashed on the screen. You sure know how to make an entrance, Denton said, voice low and surprised. I didn't come to make friends, Nathaniel replied. I came to fix what's broken. I'll need McConnell's personnel file, complaints, evaluations, everything. On my desk by tomorrow. You got it, Denton said after a moment. For what it's worth, I think you woke them up today. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Some officers were openly resentful. Others quietly adjusted. Nathaniel walked the halls daily, checking in, watching reactions, reading the shift in body language. He started small, updated training protocols, community outreach programs, listening sessions with civilians. One afternoon, a young recruit named Officer Jayla Morales stopped him. I didn't speak up before, she said, eyes full of quiet regret. McConnell used to harass people all the time. We laughed. I laughed, because I didn't want to be next. You're not the first, Nathaniel said gently. But if you're ready to be part of the solution, then today's your day one. McConnell filed an appeal. Claimed bias. Claimed it was a setup. But the internal investigation told a different story. Years of complaints, use of force violations swept under the rug, misconduct reports buried or dismissed by prior leadership. The review board upheld the suspension, and then some. McConnell was terminated. Nathaniel didn't celebrate. Instead, he doubled down. Diversity training, community ride-alongs, anonymous complaint channels, real changes, not cosmetic ones. Resistance remained, but so did progress. Months later, at a town hall event, a teenage girl stood up and asked, "How do we know you're not just another uniform?" Nathaniel looked her in the eye and replied, "Because I came in as a nobody and saw how your officers treated nobodies. That's what I'm here to change." By the end of the year, the department didn't just look different, it felt different. The officers still joked, still gathered for coffee in the break room. But now, there was a boundary, a respect. The poison wasn't fully gone, but it had stopped spreading. And every time a young recruit walked in, Nathaniel made it a point to meet them personally, to remind them of the oath, not the power. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, he stood outside the precinct watching officers head home. Laughter trickled out the doors, not cruel, not mocking, but honest, shared between people learning to trust each other again. Nathaniel smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. But it was a beginning worth fighting for.